Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Overtime. We have two pieces of breaking news. The first is unfortunate and is what it is, but and we're still looking into it. It appears that the Supreme Court has greenlit sending deporting people to areas such as South Sudan and areas where there are active human rights abuses. They had previously, in a previous order, overturned a stay of the Trump deportations that have been stayed out of Boston, Massachusetts, and they not only overturned that, but then they said that they issued a ruling that any orders such as stays of illegal Trump orders only affected the jurisdiction where the stays were in. So a federal judge couldn't say, wait a minute, summarily executing people violates their rights, and I'm going to bar the executive order that says that we're going to summarily execute people. He can only bar it for the district he's in, not nationwide. And that overturns, to the best of my knowledge, 200 years of precedent, and is once again the Supreme Court ceding its power, really. It's saying, nah, we're just going to give more power to the executive. It's insane. So they've now taken it even a step further, and where they had said you just can't send them to places violating human rights. It appears as if they have now gone back on that and said South Sudan is fine. Ostensibly, that would mean also to El Salvador and the El Salvadorian prison. We've heard from Garcia, who is now out of there. He's one of the few human beings ever to have come out of that prison. 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐡𝐨𝐥𝐚𝐬 is a prison in El Salvador. The president has bragged that people who go in never come out. There are several reasons for that. They all have life sentences. It's a maximum security prison. It's closer to a supermax, and there's massive human rights violations. If they let anyone out, everybody's going to know. He has already described torture from the moment that he got there. We're probably going to know more. I don't know how much he wants to or is willing to talk about it. He is now under indictment and facing trial here, where the defense was in the unique position of asking the judge to keep him in prison. The reason is because the prosecution, which is the government of the United States, admitted that they had no jurisdiction over ICE, and so if ICE chose to deport him and send him back there, or send him to Argentina, or send him to Venezuela, or South Sudan, they had no means of stopping him. So the defense, in an order which the defense said it's not lost on us, the absurdity of our request, but we are requesting that you not grant bail to my client because the United States can't guarantee that they won't deport him while he's awaiting trial. All that notwithstanding, that's one set of issues that we're going to put aside for now. Today, as you know from a earlier breaking, the budget bill was passed in the House. Apparently, immediately upon that, now that doesn't mean it's law yet, but it will be law. Nothing's really going to stop that from happening. It's on the president's desk. When he gets there, he will sign it, auto-pen it, whatever the hell. Having said that, shortly after that, apparently, there was a press release from the United States Northern Command. It reads as follows. Peterson Space Force Base, Colorado. Approximately 200 Marines from the Marine Wing Support Squadron 272 Marine Corps Air Station, New River, North Carolina, are conducting a movement to Florida to augment U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, interior immigration enforcement missions with critical administrative and logistical capabilities at locations as directed by ICE. Responding to a Department of Homeland Security request from May 9th, the Secretary of Defense has approved a mobilization of up to 700 active National Guard Reserve component forces operating under Title 10 authority. These Marines are the first wave of U.S. Northern Command support of this ICE mission. Other support locations will include Louisiana and Texas. Service members participating in this mission will perform strictly non-law enforcement. If they're at the direction of ICE, then it's law enforcement. ICE is exclusively a law enforcement agency. It worked. All right. U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. ICE. It's a law enforcement. Okay. These roles will focus on administrative and logistical tasks, and they are specifically prohibited from direct contact with individuals in ICE custody or involvement in any aspect of the custody chain. I feel so relieved. Here's the issue. Well, there's a number of issues, but the reason we decided to go live with it is this. Specifically, what this group does is operate, and even my understanding, and Dorito can correct me on this on the Discord if I'm wrong, but they can even build Air Force bases quickly. We've seen this with Commander McMillan. We're probably going to talk to, I have to bring this up to him. I didn't want downtime to be about this, but we're going to have to bring this up to him tonight, because one of the things he did was logistics, and he was the commander for setting up logistics in Kuwait for the invasion of Iraq. And he talked about how it was done. They would send prefab units. One of the things that they would do would be to, say, take the airbase, sorry, not the airbase, the port in Kuwait, which was not capable of handling U.S. ships or refueling them, and then remodify it. And their job was to very quickly build an Air Force base out of Kuwait. How and why that did or did not happen, we've all covered. But that was his job. That was the kind of thing that he did. What I see here is a unit that's designed to do roughly the same thing. It is a logistical unit designed to operate specifically air bases. That's what they do. They're not being sent to an air base in Florida that I'm aware of. So reading this, what I am seeing is that they are going to either create at the border an air base, or resurrect some old base that isn't used, or seize, using eminent domain, a small air base to expand, or whatever. They contain engineers, they contain everything they need for airfield communications, logistics, and to launch aircraft to and from. Why are these the guys that are going? He's sending 200 of them. This is the unit he's sending. He's building an airbase. That's what they're experts in. So they're going to build an airbase in Florida, and they've already admitted in this that they're going to send more people. The whole reason you would build an airbase in Florida, a military base, and this is a military base that they're building, would be that he's going to send a lot more troops. So the deployment of 200 Marines in and of itself is still news, although we covered it when he did it in Los Angeles. But it's this particular Marines, and on this day, that concerns me, because we spoke earlier. If you want to go look at our previous breaking on the budget, they have been handed virtually an unlimited blank check for anything regarding enforcement at the border. Anything. What the language of the bill, as I read it on air, as we discussed it, unless I missed something, which is a possibility, we do these shows quickly, but nobody's come up to me and said we've missed it. My understanding of the bill as we read it and as we've gone over it is that anything that is left over in the budget can be used for immigration services in whatever capacity ICE sees fit. So how much is left in the budget? I mean, this budget leaves such a big hole that there's going to be a $3.1 trillion addition to the deficit over 10 years. But the way it was in this bill, they defined what's left in the budget between the amount of cash they have on hand and the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling. They can spend all the way up to the debt ceiling, which this bill increases by $10 trillion. So what you have is a bill that increases the debt ceiling by 10 trillion and then says anything between whatever is currently, been allocated and the debt ceiling, any amount in between those two can be spent by ICE and Homeland Security in the defense of our borders, whatever that may or may not entail. That is essentially the largest allocation of funds in human history. One organization has, in essence, without it actually being written on paper that way, been given $10 billion. And on the day that they've been given, and again, he hasn't even signed it yet, but it passed. So it's essentially law. And on that day, a Marine force that is capable of building air bases for other Marines and military to land on and exclusively for military use has been deployed to Florida. And they said explicitly they will be at the, and let me read again, because now this may make a little more sense if I read the entire thing. United States Northern Command, which, by the way, now covers Greenland. For those of you who remember, Greenland is now considered part of the U.S. homeland and has been moved to United States Northern Command. This is a declaration by fiat. Greenland doesn't recognize it. Nobody else recognizes it. It was something that the Secretary of Defense simply declared by fiat. We are going to consider Greenland part of the homeland now because it's so important, and we will defend it as such. So U.S. Northern Command includes Greenland. Peterson Space Force Base, Colorado, approximately 200 Marines from Marine Wing Support Squadron 272, Marine Corps Air Squadron, New River, North Carolina, are conducting a movement to Florida. Didn't say the base, just to Florida. That's the reason I'm concerned. To augment the U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, Interior Immigration Enforcement mission with critical administrative and logistical capabilities at the location directed by ICE. So ICE owns these Marines. These Marines ostensibly, as it says in this letter, cannot do certain things, but their boss is ICE. And ICE is a law enforcement, that's all they do. So even we're not supposed. This is a complete violation of posse comitatus, as far as I can tell. These Marines are being deployed to operate exclusively at the behest of a law enforcement agency and to build them an airport. Responding to the Department of Homeland Security's request, May 9th, 2025, the Secretary of Defense approved a mobilization of 700 active National Guard and Reserve component forces operating under Title 10 authority. So this isn't 200 Marines. It is 900 military personnel activated and going to Florida. 200 of them are Marines from a unit that builds and operates and maintains military airports, and another 700 are active National Guard and Reserve forces that are there possibly to help, who knows. These Marines are the first wave of a U.S. Northern Command support of the ICE mission. Other support locations will include Louisiana and Texas. Service members participating in this mission will perform strictly non-law enforcement duties within ICE facilities. There's no such thing as a non-law enforcement duty within ICE facilities. If it's an ICE facility and you're a janitor who's there to clean the toilets, you work for the federal government. And you work specifically for ICE. The people who give you your credentials are ICE. You need a pass card, even as a janitor, to get into the ICE building. These roles will focus on administrative and logistical tasks and are specifically prohibited from direct contact with individuals in ICE custody or involvement in any aspect of the custody chain. Well, isn't that just ducky, except they've already been declared enemies of the U.S. government. So I thank you. It's a pretty vacuous claim as far as I'm concerned. Whether it's true or not, I suspect it's true for the short term. Anyways, that has been released as well. So we have two breaking news for you. First is that the Supreme Court has now sort of gone back on their limiting of deportations to countries that don't violate human rights, and making the claim that there had to be a, quote, reasonable expectation that the government could handle the deportees and was aware that they were coming and that they would be safe upon landing at a certain country. That appears to have been walked back. We actually need to verify that claim now that I look at it, so we're going to double check on that. But it appears that that's been walked back, and that as of this moment, they can deport to any country, including South Sudan, which the government itself exists on a 4x4 parcel of land that's about the size of a postage stamp. And it would allow people to be sent to 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐡, which is in violation of a lot of human rights. So that's what we have. And I by the way, I am speaking quickly, not entirely because I'm panicked, but because there's a technical issue and we have had a problem with the stream, and I wanted to make sure that I could say everything in time in case the technical issue caused problems. It may still cause problems, but I wanted to get everything out. So I was not speaking that quickly because it's like we're all going to die, although this is wow. Yeah, I just wanted to get all that out before we have technical problems. It would not be in time if there were not technical problems. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go check the live chat, check viewer activity. Now that I've covered everything, I'm going to go over a little bit more of sort of what my concern is and what we're going to see more. But again, the big concern is that this happened on the day the budget passed. That is not a coincidence. It takes a lot of money to send Marines anywhere, even within the United States, to build a base, an air base from which to do whatever it is that they're going to do. They didn't send in the Army Corps of Engineers. This isn't we're going to take a long time. This isn't building the wall. They're going to send that in too, don't get me wrong. This is something else. And they've been waiting for the money. With the signing of the budget bill, they've got it, and they are so desperate to do it that literally the day the money got sent, from what I can tell, the moment the money got sent, the money was okayed through Congress, they just headed off. And again, we're talking 10 trillion has been approved by Congress indirectly, without it being written down that way. Unfortunately, you have to be able to add, so that's probably why a number of our congressmen did not catch it. Dorito, Nick is correct. Thank you, Dorito. I appreciate the confirmation. That was my expectation. What I saw in the Discord was that they can repair bases, but the question was, can they also build them? And my understanding is they can. So thank you. So what they're going to do is they're going to take a piece of swampland, a piece of land that isn't being used, a piece of land that either falls under eminent domain, that can fall under eminent domain, and take it, or that will, you can't build it on the 60-foot, land that you got with the wall there, but you can take eminent domain enough out of that 60 and build an air. Why are we building a military airfield in Florida? Directly under ICE control, and explicitly going to be under ICE control. That's what this says. They are there to do what ICE tells them. ICE is about to get its own airbase. I'm not kidding. ICE is about to get its own airbase. This isn't hyperbole. All right. So, let me see. So sick to death of all of this. Yeah. That was something I was going to talk about in time, and I think we're going to any number of mental health issues that we can discuss. But we're all sick of this, and the best we can do now is, at least One of the things I pointed out with the budget bill, which is horrific. The budget bill is insane. It's easier to destroy than it is to create by a lot. And the destruction to government agencies that are extraordinarily important. USAID, that they don't understand why USAID is important. I love being called an arrogant snob by the far right. Because while unfortunately they are true, and I probably shouldn't be so much of a liberal elitist, I really shouldn't. It doesn't make it easier for me to communicate my message when I'm a self-superior son of a bitch. And I can be. Anyone who's watched the show is aware of that. Having said that, I don't have the arrogance to think that the U.S. is going to thrive without the help of partners and allies, and that us saying fuck you to our neighbors and fuck you to everybody and then think that that means that they think our balls are bigger and therefore they're going to give us better deals. Not only is there no evidence to support that, it just is patently absurd. And we're going back to an isolationist period, which is part of what caused World War II. The Canadians are pissed at us? What does it take to get fucking Canada pissed at you? All of Europe, and let's cut off USAID, because it's really okay that children get diseases that I was going to describe, and I'm not going to, because I think we've all had a rough enough day. And they're all, well, communities will take care. We don't need the federal government to take care of us because communities will take care of each other, except we're in a community as a country, and we're not going to send what to us is a tiny pittance to ensure that children aren't blinded by a guinea worm. Really? No, I don't think that they really think that communities will support people who need support, because they don't seem to want to support people, and there can be legitimate disagreements about where that support should come from, the federal or the local level, and how and why. But when we're talking about the presumably the greatest country in the world giving up 0.01% of our budget because A, we're in debt, which we are, but B, we shouldn't have to worry for or pay for these programs that save thousands of lives and have U.S. aid written right on them so everyone knows which country did it. There's a reason people did tolerate a lot of our BS, because we did actually do some good things too. That's over. Yeah. I'm not so arrogant so as to think that that's not going to have that. Yeah. The MAGA has truly managed to dwarf the ivory tower intellectual elite in terms of their own view and self-confidence and estimation of just how smart and or important they are. That's, you can take that crown off my head. It belongs to them now. All right. So, do we have anything just before I check? Because I thought I saw. Nope. All right. So that's it. That's why we went breaking. Again, 200 Marines being deployed probably would be breaking in and of itself, because they're being deployed essentially in I understand listen, I've got a degree in philosophy. I understand how he thinks he's walking the line on posse comitatus, but the reality is they're being deployed if they're being deployed to facilitate a law enforcement action that could not happen otherwise without them, then they're engaged in law enforcement. ICE can't build an airfield. ICE cannot do that. These Marines can. So, yeah. So that's why we went to breaking with it, and we're going to have a show, and we'll redirect from here to that show. It's going to be live in 2 hours, 9 p.m. Eastern. Commander McMillan hopefully is entering, and myself. There's already an airfield. There may be, I don't know, and that was one of the things I pointed out. They rebuild air bases, they build brand new ones. I don't know whether there's already a field that they have in mind. I have the letter from Northern Command, which just said they're being sent to Florida. It did not give a specific location, which implied to me that they were going to snag some land, or they already had land and they were going to build one. But if they've already got one, I'm sure that's a bonus for them. And I'm interested in knowing what they're going to do. We'll find out. But all we know is they've been sent to Florida. They're capable enough of building one, and certainly they go to ones that have had the living daylights bombed out of them, and they rebuild them. That's what they're good at. That's what these guys do. They build, manage, and maintain airfields. And I'm a little curious why ICE wants them. And there's only one possible answer I can think of. And when this memo from Northern Command says we're going to be sending more, yeah, I bet you're going to be sending a lot more. Because there's no other reason to send these guys down there except that you're going to build or seize by eminent domain an airfield that's going to be exclusively for ICE. Because these guys now work for ICE. And this is what they do. So, and now that ICE has essentially a $10 trillion budget, which is a lot, it's quite a lot. And they're not going down there to build the wall. I know that they're going to build the wall. I'm not saying they're not going to build the wall, but these guys aren't going down there for that. That's not the first troops that were deployed as soon as Trump got his budget. The first troops that were deployed were ones who build airports. If they build an airport down there, they can deport people from there, and there's no civilians working. It's an ICE airport. So it's not only about getting troops in, it's about being able to deport people without anybody knowing, because they can take everybody from ICE, and instead of going to an airport controlled by any other agency, and where those nasty judges, man, might find out, just take them to Florida. That's my guess. It's a guess, but that's what I see when I look at this. Being built on an old airport. I would imagine if an old airport's available, that would save money. But in any case, the idea that ICE is going to have its own airport, it belongs to ICE, is terrifying. I mean, I remember when we were worried about police getting tanks. And police did have tanks. They had 1 or 2 tanks. That was a while back. Now we're like, oh yeah, ICE gets an airport. I'm sure that's not going to be abused. They're not going to send anyone out of the country. And this is how it starts. Remember, Pinochet, when he started, he got rid of all the gangs. Oh my God, was he good. He got rid of all the gangs. He got rid of all the people nobody wanted. Then somebody said, where are these people all gone? Well, they were deported. The way they were deported was they were put on an airplane, brought up to 30,000 feet over the ocean, and then kicked out without a parachute. That's how Pinochet deported people. Now, nobody really cared when these people were gang members, but the few people who started to bring up, wait a minute, what's going on, those people started vanishing. And were getting deported as well. And when people said, wait a minute, those people didn't do anything wrong, they just asked questions. Oh, boom, you got deported. And again, deported to Pinochet was, it was a lot less expensive because you didn't have to pay to land. And so when we talk about he's only going to deport, he's building an infrastructure. This is the other thing people don't realize. If Germany had won World War II, they could have wiped out all of the Jews in Europe in less than a year. And Oh,
Like I know that.
Hold
like,
on one
this
second.
is
I think
a lot of times if I smell meat, I
somehow
nothing.
the previous show that I was on just popped up here. So they could have wiped out all the Jews. Actually, in far less than a year. I think they had about 6 months if they were able to do it at full capacity without having to worry about the war. But Alcatraz wasn't being made out of cardboard, and it wasn't being made out of cement blocks. It was being made out of brick and mortar. It was a permanent facility. And they were adding to it. They were expanding to it. And they were creating other camps. I think they had one more camp that was being built. So you can sit there and say it was just the Jews, but it was never, ever going to be just the Jews. That was not the plan. Slavics were almost certainly going to be next. He did not like the Slavics. No, people don't say that, but there's, he was perfectly happy to make a deal with Stalin. He was also perfectly happy to stab him in the back. And then the Slavics wouldn't have been last either. He's building permanent bases. What happens when he runs out of immigrants? And we already know, because he's picked up U.S. citizens. He's picked up people who were born in the U.S., not naturalized. It's like, oops, can't get them back. So, yeah. All right, well, thank you all for joining us. Like I said, tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, Commander Lance McMillan, Xander and I are going to have a downtime. And we're going to try to have a casual chat about this and about a bunch of other shit. and see what we think. And also where some significant cracks are starting to form, because there are cracks in this coalition of the crazy. So tonight, 9 p.m., this show will redirect directly to that. So even though we're not going to be on for 2 hours, you will at least have the link and know where it is. Thank you all for joining us, and we will, barring any new developments, see you tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, with Commander Lance McMillan for Downtime. Have a good one.